Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Good to see a good crowd of 25 plus joining us during their lunch break flexibility. We apologize for the delays in getting this scheduled, but are glad that everyone's here. We also, PMI recently switched their batch PDU processing system. They upgraded, but there's some kinks in the submission. So I know we owe some of our members April, May, and June. So we're actively working that. That's my number one priority this week. So hopefully we'll have that buttoned up and you'll see those PDUs by the time fireworks go off on Friday. So we apologize for the delays there. Okay, as mentioned in recent newsletters, our virtual education day and the summer offering for those who have been with the chapter for multiple years. We, during the 2010s, tried to offer some type of mass PDU in-person event, either at universities of Shady Grove or Montgomery College. We're struck out a little bit in terms of getting a location for the summer, so didn't want to linger on anymore. And we already have our Zoom business license, which can have up to 500 people with all the bells and whistles. So that'll be Tuesday, July 29th. Registration will be open this Thursday with some speaker announcements, with the live viewing and on-demand access for breakout sessions. Everyone can earn up to 11 total PDUs. So if you're looking for to get the certification cycle done on your dashboard sooner and later, those kind of batch PDUs are good versus watching a webinar that's an hour per PDU, that type of thing. And we still do have a call for presenters if anyone's interested or knows somebody that would be interested, for anywhere from a half hour to a 2 or 3 hour session. So we're looking forward to that to wrap up the month, and glad we could kick off the month with you guys here today. Our summer season dinner meeting hiatus continues. One of our new members reached out and was like, "Oh, I thought you guys had a lot of in-person events." And we do, just not in July and August, as we've learned that more people are out at vacation homes or busy with other things. So we'll be back Wednesday, September 3rd, and we'll continue to offer virtual events in addition to today and the education day at the end of the month, but we'll have some type of virtual PDU opportunity in August. And for all our new members, thank you for your trust and investment, and we look forward to making sure we're delivering on the value of your membership. Okay, we're also one of the few PMI chapters that have a sister Toastmasters group. So they are meeting both virtually and in person in the month of July. So if you're looking to challenge yourself this summer or do something that the busier months of the year don't allow, giving Toastmasters a crack and polishing up your public speaking would be a great idea. And continue to look at our newsletters for that information. And if you just Google PMI Montgomery County Toastmasters, you'll also see that information as well. Okay, usually as the chapter president and previously in different roles, I announce the speakers, so it's weird to announce yourself. But I've considered myself AI curious in these years that we've been blessed with the artificial intelligence and the generative AI that we have. A handful of certifications, but PMI has 2 new certifications, one PMO So how to both work within a PMO, lead a PMO, craft a PMO. So I think in our modern times, that probably has more weight than the PMP, which is basically in our world now a high school diploma check. And they've also partnered with one of the leading AI training and learning management systems on an AI project management certification. PMI has done a great job of the courses that have been out there the past few years, but this would be more a disciplined craft. What was that? Okay. And then 20 plus year and growing career in digital transformation project management, mostly within the human resources space and changing more manual labor intensive processes with some degree of automation. That started in the early 2000s when just anything on the that was web-based was looked at as innovative, and now with all the tools at our disposal, it's definitely more fun in terms of the art of the possible and crafting solutions. Some of these solutions cost a lot of money, so depending on your company or agency, they may or may not be viable. But the art of the possible has never been more prosperous, in my opinion. And for those who did get in the action figure craze of ChatGPT, where if you follow 5 prompts, you can make your own action figure for this course, I took that up. So if you're curious as to what the prompts are, I can put those into the chat later. So let me know. Okay, the structure of this lunch and learn will be some level set slides, and then we'll go into PMI Infinity, as well as some of the other generative AI tools that we have, just for some comparison. Okay, so just in terms of like AI tool overview, we put for everyone who took the poll, thank you. So what I was looking for was how to use generative AI tools in your daily professional lives. So the leading vote getters here are drafting emails and responses, meeting summaries and notes. So you upload a transcript and it does all the hard work for you. Even before Microsoft Teams and Zoom had the transcript feature, like I remember listening to recordings and having to pause and write and pause and write, and this is so much easier. Is it capturing 100% of the conversation? No, not yet, but it's capturing enough that we struggle to get people to pay attention in meetings enough. They're not necessarily going to go back and look for things, but when decisions are made for decisional briefings, it's important to have that right. So what I found in transcripts, and we'll go through one transcript a little bit later. But yeah, it's definitely a great tool. Brainstorming, just going back and forth, asking questions is great and something that we didn't necessarily have before. If you're fortunate enough to be in an office or with the collaboration tools we have in terms of Teams and some of the other office collaboration tools, you can go back and forth. But I think asking a learning model, what are some ways to do this? How would you do that? And that's a lot of what PMI Infinity offers as well. Creating reports, creating presentations. This gets a little bit harder in terms of the actual output. Some Gen AI solutions can actually offer you a file export. Some it's just, well, just copy and paste this in, so you can ask for something to be in a tabular format, but it won't actually give you the file. That's one of the advantages of Microsoft Copilot, in that they own all the Microsoft tools. So getting a doc file or a PPT or an Excel file out of Copilot's going to be easier than a lot of the other systems. With Google Gemini, you'll be able to at least get some of the Google collaboration files. Looking at other results, mathematical calculations, 4 out of 25 said they use that. Project management task generation, not that many. We'll go into that. Task to goal generation, like why are we doing the work that we do? So, yep, those are, thank you for participating in that tool. That gives some good insights here. So it's only been 944 days since ChatGPT was released in that research preview in the fall of 2022. It feels like we've had generative AI at our disposal for a lot longer than 944 days. So in chat, if anyone feels that was longer or feels it was quicker, but when you hear these futurists on the news and the podcasts you listen to say they think that we could be at 15-hour work days in 10 hours because a lot of the office jobs are in 10 years because a lot of the office jobs are gonna you're still gonna need the human in the loop, you're still gonna need the human element, but it won't be a 40-hour week grind. That's more on the white collar side. On the blue collar side, 3D printing advancements are good, but we're still going to need a lot of that in the workforce. And I know the futurist philosophies and what they're forecasting is intimidating. We recently shared the jobs trend report that PMI came out with, and even with all this advanced technology, they're still looking at a gap in talent in our industry of program and project management and not enough people. So that's good on the bright side. But depending on who you listen to and their philosophy, some feel like these job industries will be less. So if we look at 1,000 days or less in history in terms of major movements and accomplishments, the NASA Apollo program ramped up in 1,000 days or less. The Human Genome Project, the first phase did. Concept to launch of the Apple iPhone was developed in less than 1,000 days, and the concept to stand up of the Aurora supercomputer as well. So a lot can happen. If you look in your own offices and say in the last 3 years, what have we got done? It's probably not, at least in my own office environment, we've been working on some of the same things for more than 3 years. So the fact that we've had this at our disposal and all the growth in 3 years time frame is impressive to me. Okay, so just in terms of kind of a tool overview, my recommendation, how I utilize things is I'll really put some thought into what do I need and then who does it best. So if we look at Google Gemini, what does Google do well? Google's good at workspace productivity, all the Google tools that you have in terms of Google Drive and Google Sheets and Google Docs. So if you have an office or your personal business is dependent on a lot of Google Drive, using Gemini to map to that, to pull trends out and summarize files that you have. That's smart to use Google for because that has the access. I think for these more recent generations, they don't really know what a search engine is anymore, or a web search. It's just Google it. Google's become its own verb anymore. So for those who grew up with the internet first coming and Alta Vista and all these different search engines that were used, like even we may have a browser that defaults to Microsoft web search if you're using Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer for anything. But for the most part, if we're trying to search something, we're using Google. So they're the industry leader in in-depth searches with citations and actually proving things out. So those are the type of things that I use Google Gemini for. And then Microsoft Copilot, we just talked about the file exports. So Microsoft 365 and your OneDrive, if you're in an office or company that's dependent on those, using Copilot license, and to have the ability to dive into file structures is the paid model. So that wouldn't just be the free one, and we'll get into that in a minute. But having that whole Office 365 ecosystem at your disposal for at least those who are working with the federal government. For email, you're still using Outlook for the most part. So using Copilot to schedule Outlook tasks, or like if you're in an office and somebody, as soon as you send a calendar invite out, you get an automatic acceptance. That's because they have a stored job using AI to accept, different meeting structures. So you can use AI for that. And then other efficiencies. ChatGPT started this whole thing 2.5 years ago. And so even though some of our technology leaders have become more competitive with their offerings and their solutions, the majority of even tech people didn't necessarily know what OpenAI was before 2022. And now they're the industry leader with the advancements in ChatGPT are only growing. So, but what does OpenAI do well today? A lot of creative tasks and having that more human tone. If you want a poem written or things of that nature, using ChatGPT versus some of the other ones makes more sense. In terms of software development and coding and debugging, it's not going to be perfect, but ChatGPT is maintained being more of the industry leader in terms of that, and also building custom GPTs off of that use the same learning models. And we'll find out here in a little bit that PMI Infinity is based on OpenAI GPT, so it's using the same technology. And then Grok from X, formerly known as Twitter. Why do I use Twitter or Threads or Blue State? What does that type of technology do well? They're on top of current events. Some of the learning models can only go back to a certain time period. So if you're asking something about what happened yesterday in the news, then Grok can be good for that. Trending topics, and then just like their leader, there's some more witty engagement in terms of some of the responses. It's not as plain Jane. So in the poll, and I'm sure some of you were like, why is he asking what streaming services I pay for on a monthly basis when this isn't about television? But the purpose of the question was more for we're going to get to the point that like our consumers are going to want to pay for multiple like professional licenses of these models. And the whole streaming wars really started with Netflix, and 95% of those in attendance are paying for Netflix on a monthly basis. And then Prime Video's second place with 79%. And most people have Prime Video because they have a Prime account for shipping and packages and all the benefits that come with being an Amazon Prime member. And then when we get into the Hulus, the Disneys, the Apples, the Peacocks, the Paramounts, it's more, at least my own subscriber habits are, well, I need Peacock to watch Premier League soccer games, or I need Paramount to watch Dexter, or it's more specific based on something. But once those are over, I don't necessarily cancel them. I know some who do. So if we look at that perspective in terms of the AI tools, and like you can only watch Disney movies on Disney Plus or Hulu. You couldn't watch the Disney movies on Netflix, but you could get a similar prompt or response using Copilot plus versus the paid for license with ChatGPT. Maybe a little bit different, it may not be as high a quality, but it's going to be at least a similar product. So will we get to the point 5 years from now where just like everyone has, maybe 5 or 6 streaming bills a month, that they also have 3 or 4 Gen AI subscriptions in place to use them for different things? Hopefully not, but we're seeing more and more models pop up, and that doesn't even include like the custom ones made off of the same learning models, like for those in the defense space or the federal government, they came out with a Nipper GPT, which is recommended if you are going to use a GPT model or a Gen AI model on a Nipper network, on an unclassified network, versus using some of these commercial ones. PMI Infinity grew from a Chat GPT learning model. So, and we're seeing more and more using the 5 or 6 learning models that are in place, but for their own GPT and own branding. So it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for there. And in chat, Mr. Hauser has some good points that we're personifying these tools in terms of do we need all these varieties of them, or is it more just businesses looking to be in the game, and you can't win if you don't play? Mark Cuban was on the Higher Performance podcast earlier this week. If anyone's a fan of him, and he thinks that AI is going to result in the first trillionaire, that somebody is going to come around and do this in a way that's never been done before, and that's going to result in that degree of net worth, because it's going to be such a demand for the citizens of the world. So it's definitely interesting to see, but like, is it going to be more centralized into only a few of these are actually going to survive, or are we going to continue to see disparate AI systems to the point where the redundancy continues? Okay, Andrew Inge, the co-founder at Coursera, has a good quote that AI is the new electricity. I think in terms of, if we look at the poll of what everyone's using for, at least I think everyone is using generative AI in some shape or form. And then this is even to include the on-demand AI that Amazon Alexas in your house that tell you what time it is, or tell you the weather, or things like that, that really came before OpenAI and ChatGPT changed the game and the way we think. So with any technology, and even electricity, Montgomery County, Frederick County had that bad storm in February that knocked out power for at least a few hours on the Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. When we lose electricity and we're remembered of simpler and less technology savvy times, and some generations still don't even know how to operate off of that. They'll use the flashlight on their phone, and if their phone dies, then what? So if we look at AI in that dependency vein, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Time will tell. Okay, and the biggest thing with AI is trust but verify. Just like with any communications, I think that's a good rule, but review 100% of what it states, but I would never copy and paste without verifying every word, especially with meeting transcripts and things like that, because if it takes one thing wrong, that can create a storm on the flip side, depending on who reviews it and how inaccurate. Maybe they got 99% right, but that 1% they got wrong, depending on how it's wrong, could be crucial. So there's some prompts that I recommend that like I utilize, and anything I'm getting of, can you provide the source of reference for this information? Where do you find the information? If you're doing anything in the academic world, not plagiarism, but just in the brainstorming realm. Is this supported by academic research or reputable publications? Like this goes a long way in terms of, and even that still technically could be, but if it gives you a source and you can review the source, and sometimes you'll find that what they summarized wasn't even in the source, but continuing to kind of drive into that and verify, because AI is never, or at least at its current technology constraints, never going to create anything new. It's just reorganizing and summarizing things that have already been done, said, and completed. So if you look at it from that lens, but it's good to take that extra time to verify. And with the time that's saving in doing it yourself, I think there is that time for verification, but some could argue against that. Okay, so we're here to talk about PMI Infinity and introduce that in terms of the 76% that answered. One is using it monthly. A few have at least looked at it when they got the original emails, and then 17 have never used it. And fairly confident that you're still successful in your professional ventures, and it's not like, oh, if I don't use this, I'm not going to find success as a project manager. But if you look at any of these generative AI tools as a tool in your tool belt or tool bag, PMI Infinity definitely serves a purpose. So in terms of what it is, it's powered by the same learning model as OpenAI, as I previously stated. So that's using ChatGPT 4.0 Omni. So does that necessarily mean it's the same answers if you put one thing in ChatGPT and one thing in PMI Infinity? No, because PMI Infinity has also been trained by the totality of the PMI library and catalog. So everything that's in our PMI reference books and the study guides and on projectmanagement.com and is what the learning models train for and has the references to pull. So OpenAI doesn't necessarily have that. So, and you'll see that as some of these personalized, customized GPTs are built, like it's using a foundation of something that exists, but it's putting it on top of that. Are those uniquenesses worth the extra money? That's going to be on a case-by-case basis. But as if you're a PMI member, you have instant free access to PMI Infinity. Hopefully that lasts, and they don't make a cash grab for this like they have with some of the certifications and the renewal fees. But right now it's free, so if it's free, why not try it out? And they're right now on PMI Infinity 2.0. So what's changed? They acquired Cognilita, which is one of the learning AI training firms. I talked about new certifications earlier in the presentation, and they're the offer of the cognitive project management and AI certification. So some of the AI certifications that AWS and some of these other tech companies offer is more on the learning model side and not so much a user, but like how it works, like on the back end and how GPTs work, which is good information to have. But and I'm a big believer that no one was born technical. In order to become technical, you just have to have the bandwidth and curiosity and cognitive focus. So if anyone is more interested in how AI works, I think that's definitely a good skill set, and we'll talk a little bit more in our education day and pivot your purpose in terms of if all the jobs are leaning towards AI, understanding the back end of AI definitely will have value. So if you are looking to pivot into something more technical, and like a lot of us started off technical if we were in the IT world, but as you move up, you're in management, leadership, C-suite positions, and that's less and less time of hands-on keyboard. And then you kind of lose it, especially with how rapid and evolving technology is in these times. So that could be, but this certification is more like on the front end side of it and how to manage AI projects. So as your company looks to be like, oh, we want to use AI algorithms to make this easier, or to use existing data, or to better leverage our documentation library, this would be a good certification for that. One question on chat: do you remember user queries get pulled back into the PMI Infinity model, or they integrated in the back end? So the first part of that question is it does learn. It's not just one way directional, it is bidirectional. Like how much that learns, like if I correct it on a Monday and then I come back on a Friday and ask the same thing, is it gonna be fixed by then? Good question. I may test that out just for my own identification and follow up with you. And then in terms of the privacy models, it's only going to look at things from more of a broad view. So if you did upload sensitive, meaning and it's not classified but sensitive, it's not going to maintain that data that was in that conversation. It will, however, as you say, well, that's good, but make this more specific, or you need to expound more on the action items, or who are the action items assigned to, what's a good level of effort estimate for those action items. Like it may keep that information, but it wouldn't necessarily with the other. But just privacy overall, and what's the government regulation going to be for AI in the future? I think right now, thus far in 2025, there's been a lot of other conversations on Capitol Hill, and not so much about AI regulation and things like that. And then second question was, can users augment the model? We'll get into that a little bit, but it's more restricted a little bit. But there are open source AI models that allow for more augmentation. They also acquired and partnered with Green Project Management. So if anybody's in sustainable development, Green Project Management's the leader in that field. They also offer their own certification, a certified Green Project Manager certification. So it's good to have that information in the PMI Infinity set too. And then the Center for Creative Leadership, which is one of the leaders in effective leadership development practices. So just in 1 year, they're looking at how can our PMI library that's being used for PMI Infinity become more stout and effective. So look at this trend continuing for acquisitions and mergers. Hopefully that doesn't drive up our PMI fees more, but it is exciting that they're at least looking at how they can become better. And they really came out of the gate, PMI Global, back in 23 with, okay, we need, AI courses and how this can help project management and business people. And at the time, nobody else was really coming out with education classes in the professional sector that quickly. So if we look at October 22 as when OpenAI made ChatGPT available to us, within 5 months of that, 6 months, PMI already had that first course open, and they've continued to have new courses with how AI is evolving so far. So it's exciting to see that they've latched onto that as a success measure, but they're doing it the right way. Okay, now we'll go from slides to real time. Just a quick check that everybody can see the browser. If I could get a thumbs up in chat. Okay, awesome. Okay, so this is PMI Infinity. So once you log in, it'll start with the chat window, give some recommendations in terms of some general prompts, change management strategy, incident importance, risk analysis guide. We'll go into some examples that I put together. But there's also a prompt library, like if you're struggling with what's a good prompt. So if you wanted a prompt to create your own requirements traceability matrix or a stand-up agenda, and then it goes into topics of prompts. So this is good. Just even if you know what you want, you only know what you know. So for those who have never used this, 17, 20 people on the call, I'd recommend going through and just how I become familiar with solutions and websites is basically just clicking on everything. So you may not have necessarily time, but this is good in terms of, and you can contribute your own prompt as well, but a lot of these are just contributed by PMI right now. There's also guided experiences. So we talked about some of their acquisitions. So this gets more into, you'll see the Center for Creative Leadership has constructive email writing, and some Gen AI tools aren't necessarily going to be, I mean, you could put your email in there and say, make this better, more professional, or more technical. And that'll go into that a little bit. There's some risk there in terms of it'll drop words and things, but that goes back to the trust but verify and review everything. And we did have a good message in chat that says about verification, which we'll get into a little bit. But going back to the Center for Creative Leadership, email writing, how to give project feedback, leading projects effectively. And then when we get into Cognolita a little bit more, that goes back to the trustworthiness of AI, the privacy, the ethical response, how you can governance AI solutions. And then the green project management has a which looks like it's more for the European Union, but different reporting for project managers. So, and I think these guided experiences are only going to become more vast. PMI themselves has a schedule plan to coach around that, and in terms of effective PMOs. So even if you check this once or twice, continue to check back to see what else is added. Then in terms of tools, for those who use projectmanagement.com, when you need a template for something, you'll know that some are good, some aren't. Some Excel templates are locked down to the point where you can't modify it, so it's basically worthless. Some of the templates are so generic and generalized, they don't really have a whole lot of value, but they are there. So in terms of a project charter or risk management plan, here it kind of walks you through creating that with the specific needs that you have of your organization. And then it'll put together that whole risk management plan. So that's a tool that wasn't necessarily available before PMI Infinity. A lot of the templates you had to, you just got a doc file or Excel file or PowerPoint and you were on your own. But this is going to take your information, ask pointed questions, and then put it together. And same with project charters. So different set of questions, but it will make things easier, and it won't have the template controls that some of the projectmanagement.com templates have, of like you can't put your own logo and things like that. It won't be locked down, so it makes it look like it was that you didn't create it yourself, because I know that's problematic depending on the company or agency you work for if you can't put your own branding on there. And then there's also a surplus of tutorials they're not great in terms of, I think they're going with the whole, there's not enough focus for training videos that they shouldn't go over 5 minutes. But if you only have videos like at 3 minutes, 2 minutes, you're really not going to get much out of it from my perspective. But people learn differently. Some people learn by reading, some people learn by listening, by watching. So there's only 6 videos out there out of the millions of project managers. There's only 24,000 views. So I think the masses look at this the same as I do in terms of value added, but it's there, and they'll continue to utilize this PMI Infinity Learning Series to post more content. Okay, so now let's kind of look at a couple examples of what things look like. So in terms of going back to my slide of what do you need and who does it best in terms of exam prep, PMI's drafted the exams, they've drafted the bodies of knowledge that the exams are based on. So utilizing PMI Infinity to prep for a PMI exam makes sense to me. So one of the prompts was, just to kick things off, was to create 130 flashcard style questions in preparation of the Agile Certified Practitioner exam grouped by core categories. And then within seconds, it's coming up with 130 questions grouped into the core categories that you'd find on the exam. What I found was a lot of these are like more vocab things, and for those who have taken a PMI exam, which is, I'm guessing, the majority of us, none of the PMI exams have this easy of questions. Like, it's all in thick paragraph, and there's a couple of different ways you could answer it. So this is good, I guess, but I wouldn't feel comfortable just using this as an exam prep. So I was like, well, rewrite the questions in the detailed manner that the exam will ask them. And then you see that it's a little bit more intensive in terms of like how the questions are asked and things of that nature. So, but that's just one prompt to like, hey, like, you gave me what I asked for, but maybe I didn't ask for the right thing. So now that you see what they gave you, you can continue to, and you can continue to drill in even on these, because the problem with these is a lot of the questions on PMI exams are still going to be multiple choice. So it's going to require more thought than just vocab, but if they are multiple choice, then like this doesn't, it's going to help it from a study guide perspective, but it wouldn't necessarily help for a sample exam. So if I asked the most recent questions and make a practice test. And then that breaks it out. So, but I'm looking at this, and I'm like, well, what's the right answers? So we'll see as it goes if it's going to output the answers, but it did take everything. It still kind of makes the questions a little easy, but overall it's better. So you just have to continue to work for it. But if this was 5 years ago and you had to do this yourself, you'd either buy one of the books and look at the practice exams that way, buy an actual practice exam and do it. So there's still, with a little bit of time and some back and forth, you can get what you need to achieve the goals. Is this going to result in a 75% probability that they're going to pass the exam? Probably not as it is right now, but it would just be another tool in your tool bag of passing the ACP exam. Another thing that PMI Infinity will do good is a job jar template for jobs. So not to violate any On my professional scope, I just used our Montgomery County chapter and the positions that we have here. So I created a detailed job jar template for the local chapter based on the positions that we have. Within seconds, comes back with responsibilities of our chapter positions. So I was like, well, that's okay, but this is more like overall scope, but not like what if I want to hold myself and the other board officers more accountable. So take the position responsibilities and transfer them into operational tasks. And then I can kind of make that more from trying to provide leadership and oversight for the chapter from a board management perspective. So then it breaks those down into the more operational tasks, which is good. But this still seems like a lot of work. So I'm like, well, I'll put the latest into tabular format. So then it breaks everything down into tabs. But if I'm going to copy and paste this into Excel, it's going to, because all the tasks are lumped together and grouped together. So I need break each operational task into its own row and then assert a reasonable level of effort time box for each. So after 4 prompts, this really gave me something that I can use. And even though I put this together for the purpose of this training, at the same time, it's still it's something that I probably actually will use real time since it did provide this level of management and making things a little bit easier. So that's, if you look at job jars and how your resources work and what they do, that's one thing that with PMI understanding task management more, that's what you could leverage the library better for than you could probably get something similar out of Copilot or Gemini or ChatGPT, but it wouldn't have the real understanding of the task management that PMI's library has. In terms of a project management plan templates, and some people look at a project management plan as more narrative based. That's like a 20-page document that has all the sections. Some just look at it as like basically your Gantt chart and more of that look. If you're fortunate enough to have like a modern program and project management software like a ServiceNow that the way they do like status reports built in and everything is good from like dashboard, but it's not good from having like a document to give to your senior leaders or C-suite. A lot of like what ServiceNow provides is more like click-throughs and good for real-time stuff, so you don't need to waste time on paper or waste time with documents. But I know a lot of us still have to have like that, you know, actual project management plan documentation. So this created something more at a higher level, which is still using like the project management templates that are in projectmanagement.com. I said provide more detail and export into a doc file. They give a little bit more detail in terms of the sections with the implementation timeline, and then it tells me how to, since it's not a Microsoft tool, it can't actually output the doc file like Copilot can, but it tells me if I'm using Microsoft Word or Google Docs, like how I can, you know, copy and paste into that. So, which sounds fairly rudimentary here, but if you were doing like coding or something else, like this type of like how you can apply what they're doing into your solution set, like kind of a how-to guide does help. But and then going back to the verification step, you know, where did I find this information? Then they just said that it's in the PMI preparatory content and includes the best practices and guidelines. So it's basically just taking my one sentence of what the project was of installing a network node at the Navy base in Naples and the deployment teams coming from the States. So what's that look like in terms of getting all the equipment out there and those type of things. But there wasn't really a source file for there, but that are the type of responses that you'll see in PMI Infinity if you do ask it where it got the information or what's this verified for? Another thing that I've used PMI Infinity for in my daily doings is to create an assessment checklist of an AI tool. Right now I have a project that is using AI to create position descriptions. So I think AI is really going to help with the human resources and the hiring process, and just as much from an employee's perspective of like using AI to dress up their resume and take what they did and make it a professional resume. On the flip side of like the actual jobs and what's needed, and for those that have to have jobs classifications and things of that nature, like this will help. So you see, it's great. When I asked for a checklist, I wasn't necessarily looking for a series of questions, but this is what it first thought. So then I said, okay, create this into a tabular format. And then it does the same thing in terms of grouping everything together to a point where you have to play with centers and mergers if you're going to put this into Excel and make your own, or into Adobe and make it a live file. So then break down each detail in its own row and allow another column for responses. So it does that. So I can actually work with this type of checklist to give to our AI and data scientists and say, is this a good tool? And then, but how can you score it in terms of the response? So I was like, well, let's ask for an apply weighted grade to each detail row so that the assessment can be scored. So it comes out with its own weighting, but at least it gives you something to think about in terms of, okay, it gives you a basis of, well, I disagree with that. I'll change the numbers, but at the end of the day, it's all going to add up to 100%. And then in the verification, what's the origin of this data? And it says that it's basically general knowledge and best practices for evaluating AI tools, and the response is powered by OpenAI's GPT. So, but as much as OpenAI's learning models have learned about assessing AI tools, like a lot of, like if you actually peel back the onion on these are actually pretty good questions that don't need a lot of manipulation. Since I have the floor and the soapbox, I've seen a lot of chatter out there of like, oh, Microsoft Project's being replaced with Microsoft Planner. Which I disagree with, and using Microsoft Planner, which is one of the widgets and apps you can add in your teams. It's basically just a virtual task board, Kanban board, but it's that simple in terms of that. It doesn't have the granularity for Microsoft Project. One could ask, do we need all that's in Microsoft Project anymore? Is a lot of that not a value added for decision making and things, but it's not a project management tool. It's more like a Jira visualization or things like that. So, but PMI should know. So I asked, is Microsoft Planner equipped with the capabilities to replace Microsoft Project? They say they're both tools, but they serve different purposes and distinct capabilities, which I agreed with in my head. And then the more that just with anything, the helpful, non-helpful, that goes back to algorithm. And if it's not helpful, they'll find a different way to say it. So, and then with a lot of the PMI Infinity things, it'll ask if you want additional sources or additional things to click through, and some of the other Gen AI tools don't have that. In terms of meeting minutes, updated or uploaded a meeting format that didn't talk about anything sensitive or really important, just about training videos, and just off of the Microsoft transcript. So for those familiar with that, it's basically just, question or time box statement, person time box statement, in no real, it follows and captures everything that was said in the meeting, but depending on microphone quality and everything else, it's taken a lot of acronyms and wrong, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the templates that come out of Microsoft Teams. But it puts it together in an overall like I couldn't send this as a meeting minutes because like what you'll find out of a lot of AI interpretations of meeting transcripts is it's going to be really broad and not actually go. The purpose of meeting minutes is this person said this person agreed to this, everybody was here when this person said this, that in my mind. So these more kind of broad things aren't going to help as much. So if you come back, please cite the discussions more as codified action items, then that gets it a little bit more detailed. It breaks down the action items per the person. It didn't get that 100% right, but at least it's something. And then since it has the transcript and summarized, you can ask like, what were the most powerful thoughts of the meeting, and continue to kind of work with that. But it still beats the listening to the recording and trying to transcribe everything, or if you're typing at a meeting. Like I found that now that we do have these tools at our disposal, it's a lot easier to be active and present in meetings when you don't have to worry so much about the notes. Now that can bite you many times. I had a meeting on Friday that click record, it started to transcribe, the transcription like aired out at some point, and the only thing that the transcript got were the first 5 minutes of the meeting. It was an hour meeting. I assumed that the transcript worked, so my short notes weren't as detailed. So that's kind of where, if you're the secretariat or the scribe for your meetings, having a backup plan is good. Not exhaustive to the point where if you're recording it off of the meeting solution, the Teams, the Zoom, that you have to, have a backup of like a record with your phone, but like not 100% assuming that the transcript's going to give you everything is probably a good best practice, and something I even reminded myself based on my bad experience on Friday. So definitely want to get everybody out at the 1 o'clock mark as advertised. A few things, just in terms of looking at other projects in terms of benchmarking. So I'm one of the people who are dependent on GW Parkway to get from my residence to my workplace, and that's frustrating every day. Even days I'm not on it, it's still frustrating of the time that I lost during the week. So just for the purpose of this, when did the GW Parkway construction project start? I messed up because I said construction. So when it actually got constructed, it was 1930s. So this is right. I just asked the wrong question. So I was like, nope, the current renovation. And then got what I wanted. The current renovation started in 2021. What exact deliverables does the renovation project have? It gives me a little bit of detail, but more at a kind of broader sense than why has it taken so long? Because it's been years, and every time they fix the lane, they go to another lane, but then they go back to the lane that was originally fixed and dig that back up. So like maybe it'll have something in there, not specifically. So, and then when will it end? It's expected to be completed by 2025. I'd bet a paycheck that's not going to happen, but they do have a lot of resources out there during the summer and these 100-degree days. And if anybody wants to take me up on that, that may be good. And then what was the source of the information? Going back to the verify, it gets a little bit, but not specifically like what was the exact source. And I could have continued to ask, but I didn't. So from a comparison perspective, so I went into Copilot and said, when will the GW Parkway renovation project be done? So essentially what I asked here, when will it end? Ask Copilot. It says late 2025, according to the National Park Service, gives me a citation, breaks down a snapshot of when it started, what the budget was, what the work was, and then the progress as of probably the last report, so maybe May, of that these are the things that have been, there's success factors and where they're currently at as we stand right now. And then it said, do you want a visual timeline? I was like, I didn't want to dig too deep because I knew I wouldn't necessarily have time. But what was the exact source of the information? It gives me the National Park Service construction update page and a little bit more citations. Then I asked for a visual timeline, and it basically starts me at August 2022 and then to the completion, and then summarizes the work itself, and if they're only 55% complete with the roadways, are they going to be done in 6 months? You could go back and forth with this for probability, but it gives a lot more detail that PMI Infinity wouldn't necessarily have. So that goes back to using things for what you need out of it. So this is all just training fodder. So even though it did give me a little bit of confidence that maybe by next year at this time, like, we won't be so frustrated on the road. But just the fact that it could pull all this information and summarize it in that way, if PMI Infinity in the future can look at, like, if you upload a bunch of project documentation and it could, spit out like this type of timeline and the percentages based on tasks and things of that nature. I think that's the future. So I think as more people use PMI Infinity, hopefully PMI Global will continue to invest more and more in it. It seems right now there's not, just based on the sampling size of here, the attendees that we have in the room, not that many people are using it today. If we look at the YouTube videos, only 24,000 are actually viewing the learning series. So I think there's still a ways to go, but the art of the possible for the value that can add would really be good, in my opinion. But we'll see. If people don't go see movies usually don't get sequels. So if we look at it from that. And then one of my old mentors said you should always include a joke in every presentation. So even if you ask PMI Infinity, provide me 3 project management dad jokes, they'll give you 3. So why did the project manager set on the clock? Because they wanted to be on time. So we'll wrap it up with that in terms of the actual looking at the tool, and then going back to the slides. One closing point is Will Guarda, who wrote Unreasonable Hospitality, which has been kind of a trendy read the past few years, and he's also a contributor to the Bear, the chef show on FX and Hulu, for those who have that. One quote that he had that was powerful that I pulled from the book was, "It's the only thing that comes to mind when you think of what you do for a living is how hard it is, and you should probably be doing something else." So if we look at AI as making our lives easier, I mean, there's always the threat that it could do our jobs better than we can, but we just need to continue to believe in humanity and that human in the loop element until we have reason not to. But AI is available to make things easier. So if you're frustrated with parts professionally and you haven't really looked at AI to help, I just encourage you and challenge you to give it a try. If you don't at least give it a try, you won't know what's out there. Some stuff may not be detailed enough for what your projects and scope are, but at least give it a shot. Okay, couple things in chat for those who want to look at that. So it looks like AI isn't always good in terms of some of the answers that it gives, but more people taking those as fact, which goes back to the verification. But how is that going to be fixed more, and the reliability of the information? But the more you push it to how did you get this information, how do you generate it, it's like high school algebra class in terms of having to show your work. So just continue to have AI show the work. Okay, any questions or anyone to come off mute with their own thoughts on AI?
Hi, Matt. This is William Glasgow.
Yep. Hi.
I'm kind of curious from a metrics perspective. Do you think that folks will share the kind of KPIs or process or even personal metrics before there was either discretionary adoption and maybe a little bit of formalized use where expectations on those same charts and actual performance will reveal if some of the claims are short term or now a real new normal of productivity by the folks who are doing the same kind of work with AI. Because
Uh,
that's what I haven't seen really. I mean, I understand, quote, the potential and someone talking about sporadic sort of burst in, okay, I got that done in a tenth of the time. But, you know, at the unit level or team level and actually planning factors being changed because there's just um, a true belief through uh, repeated efficiency gains that are that different.
no, I agree. And I can just speak to one project I'm managing right now that you have a legacy system that is doing the scope. It's a little bit more manual intensive, but the accuracy is there. And then the AI model of doing it in terms of accuracy is uh, a little bit better than 50%. Overall, probably 60 to 65. But that's just requiring more work uh, on top of the legacy system, even if you use it as a complement, because the accuracy isn't there. And those metrics are transparent because in terms of the investments, especially at for companies and agencies to invest in these technologies, they need to see that the accuracies are right. So I promote like pushing for those metrics and being like, show me with facts and data, like this is actually more efficient. Like I think we've moved past the bot technology of the 2010s where it's like, oh, this saves 4,000 man hours, like or people hours. Sorry. How do you well, how do you come up with that? And we always got like lukewarm responses. So I think if you're going to give a service integrator or a consultant or a service provider millions of dollars a year for a solution, like they need to prove that the accuracy is better than the status quo, which is more human based, but with some degree of automation technology. And that could also be a risk if in terms of the human staffing too, is if the percentages are in the 90 percentile, like is that going to expose that there needs to be less humans in the loop too? So good fodder for conversation.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, show of hands of the 27 who are still with us. How many are going to play around with PMI Infinity sometime this month? Okay. Looks like we got a little bit of interest. So yeah, continue to use it. The more feedback that PMI gets as well, in terms of like going back to the screen share, there's provide feedback. So if it doesn't give you what you want, it's only going to get better if you do that. So as you go through, and it'll tie back to what you actually asked for, so they'll see it. But providing, was this good? Did it give you what you needed? And what you needed may not even be humanly possible, but it's at least a good way to continually give them feedback. And Chef Jose Andres says that all feedback's good feedback, and everything he gets at his restaurants, he has a team to look through every tweet, every Yelp review, every Google review. So hopefully PMI is holding themselves to the same standard to make this as robust of a tool as it can be. Okay, closure phase logistics. I know at the start I talked about the PDUs, so I will craft a claim code for this and get that out to everybody. So the same email address that you got the link this morning, you'll get the email with the claim code if you want to report it by yourself, and we'll also report the batch file, and hopefully we can get over the problems that we've been having. But I appreciate your time. I know there's better places to spend lunch with than us today, but hopefully you got something out of this. The recording will be on YouTube if you want to reference anything again, and we'll have a follow-up to this in some shape or manner later on in the year. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your membership. If you're not a member yet, we'd love to have you. And everyone have a safe Independence Day holiday. If humanly possible, just let the firework professionals do all that. But all these firework stands and all these suburban parking lots and shopping areas wouldn't be there if nobody was buying them. So if you are partaking in that, be safe. Thank you.